Good morning, everybody, and thanks for those opening remarks, Peter. It's always a pleasure to listen to you. I'm going to do something a little bit different today. We've heard a lot of comments today, panels even today throughout the conference, and in many conferences. How do we collaborate? How do we collaborate? How do we collaborate? It's a recurring theme. So I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to phrase and put some context behind some of the challenges, and to give an example of how we can collaborate differently from other industries to drive massive change and transformation. So hopefully this works. I love this quote. For those of you that don't know Shopify is one of the largest online retailers. Their biggest competitor is Amazon. If you buy something online that's not Amazon or Alibaba, it's going to be Shopify. Toby Lutka, who's based in Toronto now, came up with this quote in May of this year, and I love it for two reasons. As a mining industry, we tend to think that we're different than others, and we can't really collaborate as much with other industries because we're different. Yet that quote could apply to us, to all of us. It's exactly the same for mining as it is for software engineering or whatever it is. It's identical. And the second reason, if you distill that quote down, what it basically means is the status quo and business as usual is no longer any good. We've got to change, and we've got to have speed and acceleration and agility. We've got to do things differently. The other interesting thing here is a quote by some work done by KPMG just last year, surveyed 300 and some executives, and the executives said, technology is critical. This is awesome. Technology is critical to solving all these challenges, ESG, et cetera, and it's fabulous. And I've put the term in there, platform technology, to do a little bit of differentiation. We don't really want to look at the incremental stuff. We've got to focus on some of the bigger challenges we have, and that requires new platforms, platform thinking, and new technologies. All this stuff is great. We've got challenges, and we've got to act differently, and we need technology. However, we've got a couple of challenges. And some of this was mentioned in previous panels today. Is a lot of the technology we need doesn't exist. And the timeline to create the technology from where it is today, which is either nothing or very low TRL, to something that's commercial, is actually a long lead time. And if you're looking at deep tech in the METs, et cetera, and processing equipment, that is 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Bill Buxton, very famous computer scientist, came up with the term, the long nose of innovation. It's 20 years. We don't have time. We can't wait. We've got to do it faster. We've got to find other ways to be more agile and develop technology faster. Also, if you look at our existing flow sheets, our existing processes, it's really hard to inject new technology in those processes because there's risk. When you inject a new technology in a process and it goes off the rails, we don't produce zinc for 2 weeks. We have catastrophic problems. We can't just do it that way. We've got to find other ways to reduce the risk and be able to test these technologies out in different ways. And at the same time, because the challenges that we're facing are very significant, we've got to take a look at new flow sheets, new technologies, new platform processes, et cetera. We've got to alter our thinking a little bit. And this has been talked about a lot. About 3 panels today talked about paradigm shift in culture. And this is a culture at the individual level, at the company level, and at the mining industry level. And there are ways you can break these things down, okay? So we've got a challenge there. A second challenge, if you look at the evolution of our technology, and somebody earlier talked about revolution, well, let's stick with evolution for now. If you take a look at the evolution of our technology compared to other industries, a ball mill from 1955 looks essentially the same as a ball mill today. Sure, there's going to be different materials, there'll be different process systems, all that sort of stuff, but they look virtually the same. Yet if you look at the client side of telecommunications, there's organizations around the world right now working on embeddable telecommunications device powered by your body, where instead of picking up a cell phone, you're going to be going, Peter, thanks, mate, that was cool, done. That's the new telecommunications device. We need to do things like that. So we need to change our evolutionary pathway of technology, and fast. So as I said, instead of talking about, here are the challenges we need to collaborate, I'm going to give a couple of examples of what we do to break these paradigms and shift what we can do, how we can do it, and with whom, okay? So this is my first time at IMARC, so a little bit about us. We are a nonprofit corporation based in Canada. Everything we do is defined by mining companies around the world. Even though we sit in Canada, we work with mining companies in Australia, Canada, US, Chile, Europe. Those little red dots are people we speak to on a weekly basis, not that just sign up. We actually work directly with them. We have people in Australia. Our project manager, Adam, little wave, from Melbourne is sitting here in the audience, and Trevor from Toronto is here as well. So we have people across Toronto and in Australia. In terms of a paradigm shift in transforming the industry, we worked with the mining industry, a number of CEOs a number of years ago, to look at what's a really, really audacious goal. What do we need to do as an industry differently? And we came out with a vision and a strategy of transforming mining to a zero waste industry. Previous panels talked about zero tails. We actually created a strategy back in 2015 to get to zero tailings. I know somebody talked about ICMM in a previous panel and their zero tailings roadmap. 50% of disruptive technology projects in the roadmap for ICMM are being delivered by us. 75% of the transformative ones are being delivered by us in consortia of companies. So it's being done. A really key thing about what we do is I'm not from the, I can't really say I'm not from the mining industry anymore because I've been with CMIC for over 10 years. But I've had the great pleasure of working in microelectronics, software, pharmaceuticals, et cetera, in consortia to solve challenges. And what we did in CMIC is we took a lot of what's good in those industries and adopted it. So our business model, a key piece of our business model is co-developing platform technology. So we're not looking at one vendor trying to create something, we're looking at 3 to 9 mining companies working with a vendor or more and the surrounding business ecosystem to actually solve this problem and create the technology. So an example of a platform technology in pharmaceutical, a protein is a platform. Multiple companies work together and collaborate. Android's a platform. In mining, a ball mill is a platform technology. We are not interested in getting another 5% incremental benefit, energy reduction in ball mills and combination technology. Our approach is how do you replace it? New platform technology, new platform processes. And I've already mentioned that about our business model being adopted from other industries. And you can see the list of the mining companies and some of the suppliers that we work with around the world. And this is a really important thing. And it was mentioned by Peter in his comments. I want to pick up on that a little bit. Canada you talked about Canada and how we're bifurcated across Canada, and collaborating is challenging sometimes. We do that regionalization. Australia does it, we do it, and we do it on a global level as well. So the issues the mining industry have are not isolated to Australia or to Canada or to Europe or to Chile or to Africa. They're all the same. We need to break down some of that regionalization and collaborate at a global level to solve these global challenges. And that's what we're doing. So the other thing we do is we look at the system. This is a really simple diagram that talks about that takes a look at, for example, the cycle steps on underground mining. So the typical approach we use as an industry, we'll take a look at the various pieces here and we'll electrify it. We'll swap the diesel platform with an electric platform, and that's great. There's a lot of benefits to that. However, we're not dealing with the inherent inefficiencies of the system. So we take a look at the system, the platform process, a flow sheet, if you will, and basically try and collapse that. Can we collapse those cycle steps from 5 or 6 down to 2 or 3 with new technology while addressing the inefficiencies, the GHG, and all the other factors that are really important to the mining companies? But at the same time, we're developing new flow sheets. So we're working with large OEMs and even startups to look at new integrated flow sheets this is one example, to replace drill and blast. So working with organizations like Komatsu and Sandvik and multiple mining companies to co-develop that technology to get it work in underground hard rock mining. And at the same time, working with startups who have really cool technology that can be used to precondition or pre-treat the phase. And we actually put those two together and introduce those two to see how can we put these things together to solve that problem. And then when you change that flow sheet, what happens? When you start making this stuff work really well, you collapse that from 6 steps to 2 or 3. It enables the addition of other technologies that are a little hard to do now. So for example, ore sorting. Just imagine if you can do ore sorting underground, leave 50% of your waste underground. What does that do to energy consumption, environmental footprint, and water consumption, if you can do that? These are the things we're working on right now. And it also opens the door for technology like Elon Road, which is a dynamic charging technology out of Sweden. It can't work in an existing mine behind a mechanical cutter. It'd be ideal. It'd be awesome. So new flow sheets. Now, this is just a simple example of some of the areas we're working in. We have 11 consortia with multiple mining companies, as small as 3 and as many as 9. And we also have suppliers like the large OEMs, many startups. I think it's about 5 of the consortia we have in place are with startups. We spend a lot of time coaching startups, coaching the CEOs on their market, their potential technology, what they should be focused on, the funding models. We introduce them to funders like RCF and others. We spend an inordinate amount of time doing this. An earlier panel, I think it was Mackie from BHP, talked about exactly that. So we're spending a lot of time making sure that we actually align the startup and the technology supplier with what the mining company wants. And it helps them as well because they have potentially other markets. So a significant amount of time just working with startups to make sure that they're going the right way to get that alignment, which is really, really critical. Now, I want to give one example from this is impossible to it's been done, and it's been done fast. So a number of years ago, about 5-6 years ago, we assembled 2 groups of industry executives, one in energy and one in processing. We asked them independently, what's the single largest challenge you have in your industry in energy, and what's the single largest challenge in processing? And they both said energy and comminution. I'm not a mining person, so I said, well, what's the big challenge? Well, our platform technologies, ball mills, they suck. The energy efficiency is terrible. And we know this, we design our mines with failure in mind, and we still do it. We need to replace it. So we went out and said, we're going to develop technology, co-develop new technology that will reduce energy and comminution by 50%. Can you imagine what the response to that was? What was the response? You can't do it. We tried it, it failed. It'll never be done. You don't understand mining. Financiers won't touch it. And people are so emotionally attached to existing technologies. I actually had one person go to the chair of my board and demand that I be fired. That's how emotionally attached people were to this technology. So we went ahead anyway. I thought, this is awesome. Everybody hates it, really emotional. We're on the right path. Let's go. 4 years later, we've cracked the nut. In 4 years, we developed a technology. Actually, it's a true platform technology. We have 2 variants of it. And again, this is just an example. The CAM technology, 50 ton per hour. We skip the scale approach when you're developing technology. Usually you do 2 to 3 steps. We did 1. We're now working with mining companies to see where this 50 ton per hour crusher is going to go on site to be tested in real time. We did it during the pandemic. And also what was really interesting about this is that this is the first prototype. This is the MVP. But we built and ran over 300 of these by using simulation and modeling. We simulated, modeled this thing to death. We built 300 of them to get this final version that is now, that is now uses 50% less energy than HPGR. And the really cool thing about this too, it was designed in a modular fashion as well, so that the actual grinding piece is about 3 feet wide. If you want to go to 100 tons per hour, add 3 feet to it. It's really simple, really cool design. We're breaking all the rules for doing this. The other cool part about this with Monorail, we're sitting in Hatch in Mississauga, and we asked ourselves a question. I wonder if we can use the same approach and retrofit a ball mill. So we have, you're not going to rip out your existing ball mills. 18 months later, we had the Monorail built, tested, energy consumption 35% less. From that's impossible, you can't do it, you need to leave, to in less than 4 years, 2 technologies that are disrupting the industry. So the question I have is, what's next? What's the next intangible problem that we have that we think we can't solve, that we have to do as an industry? And let's crack that nut. The reason this worked is mining companies. This has got the mining company pull. This is the only reason this worked. We did have a number of suppliers, engineering firms, and we had several from Australia as well. Molly Kopp, Optimized Group from Australia, were working on this, Rockwell Automation, CTTI, Corem, et cetera, all together to do this. And I'll state emphatically, IP is not an issue. We solved that at the start. It is a non-issue. When people talk about IP being a barrier, it's not a barrier, it's an enabler, and we spend too much time talking about why it's a barrier versus solving it. And we've cracked that, we've cracked that nut. By doing this sort of co-development approach, you can actually accelerate the evolution. 4 years. Impossible, can't do it. 4 years later, we have at-scale technology done. So we can actually accelerate the creation of new technology by using different approaches used by other industries. And that was a theme from some of the speakers this morning. The other thing we realized very quickly as well is that you've got to look end to end. Developing technology and just saying, well, let's go commercialize it and say, go have fun, doesn't work. We created a subsidiary called ReThink Mining Ventures, whose focus is to actually rapidly commercialize. And the main piece we're working on right now is to put in place a new mining technology fund to help that accelerated commercialization of technology with a clear market pull. So in some cases, we have these technologies where the mining companies are saying, we want it last year. So what happens is that the CEOs typically go around, try to raise capital. It's an 18-month cycle of constantly raising capital. Can we shortcut that cycle and get it done quicker? And I'm going to end with this slide because we talk about culture a lot and we talk about people a lot, but all of this stuff is because of people. It has nothing to do with technology. It is because of people. A lot of what we do is actually group psychology. We spend a lot of time doing group psychology. So for example, you've heard forming, norming, storming, performing on how groups work. That's psychologically based with a lot of cognitive engineering. We in a consortium meeting just a couple of months ago, we used the results of Ash's conformity experiments to get the result we wanted because we understood how group dynamics work. We've created level setting processes that are based on group psychology to break down the barriers of, we can't collaborate with you. Why haven't we collaborated before? We can't do that. Yes, we can. So it's all based on psychology. It's all based on people. And we came up with this saying about 2016, innovation happens at the speed of trust. If you're going to collaborate and you cannot trust the people around the table, it will not work. And if you break that trust, it takes a long time to fix. We know we've had to go through this. So it's all about people, not technology. We need to change how we do things and accelerate what we're doing because we have run out of time. Thank you.